Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
Oh, that song. I'm Joe Bob Briggs, still here. I'm surprised I am because of that credit song. Please. It's called We Are One. Sounds like an off-key French art song or something. Written by the great Ennio Morricone, the composer who did all the spaghetti westerns. Oh, anyway, Orca flips Richard Harris like a flapjack, buries the wise old Indian under an avalanche of papier-mâché ice, winks at Charlotte Rampling, and swims off into the sunset. And they wonder why people laughed. Next week, 4th of July weekend, is a very special week on Monstervision because it's the beginning of the TNT summer session, what we call Joe Bob's Summer School. And if you watch all 10 weeks of Monstervision from 4th of July to Labor Day, you can actually get high school credit because the Jefferson Davis Votech High School in Bogalusa, Louisiana, is offering credit for extremely slow learners, which, let's face it, that's our whole audience here on Monstervision. So if you pass the final exam of 42 questions, and you won't be able to pass it unless you watch all the shows, then you will get a diploma signed by yours truly. And next week is Physics and Trigonometry Night with 2 time travel classics, Back to the Future and Time After Time. In just a minute here, I'm going to give you a little preview of that when I explain the first law of thermodynamics. It'll give you a flavor of what's in store this summer. 3 weeks from tonight, by the way, we'll have a visiting professor on the show. Wes Craven will be here. Wes started out as a professor of philosophy long before he was a film director, and then he'll be here to help me host a Wes Craven double feature. And 4 weeks from tonight, we'll have Ice-T for Black Studies Night. Black Scholar Iced Tea for Black Studies Night. But right now, let's get started on Philadelphia Experiment 2, and it's one of those time travel flicks where Brad Johnson has to travel back to 1943, which is where he started out in the first movie, where the airplane disappeared and he ended up in 1984, and now he's lived 9 years in the present time, so it's 1993, and he thinks that maybe when he came through the time and space vortex the first time, he accidentally let the Nazis grab a stealth bomber. So now maybe in 1943, they're going to use the stealth bomber to annihilate Washington, D.C., which they might have already done, because it's 1993. And if they did that, then America as we know it doesn't really exist. Only if that's true, then how is it possible for Brad Johnson to be living in this little suburban California community where his son plays Little League, and then these evil military types start playing around with time travel and zapping Brad's DNA so he has these bad headaches? Anyway, before you know it, he ends up in a different 1993, the one that happened after Washington was bombed, but we didn't know that Washington was bombed. You see why I can't stand talking about these movies? They just give you a headache. The movie itself gives you a headache. Anyhow, starts off kind of slow, but it builds up to some great scenes at the end. Let's look at those drive-in totals. 24 dead bodies, 3 raging gun battles, 1 exploding house with fireball, 1 exploding military aircraft with fireball, 2 bullets to the forehead, throat slitting, and I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. Check it out, and we'll be back with some Jailbreak and some other cool stuff. And I know I just kind of gave up on that one, didn't I? Yeah. I started to explain it, and you know why? It's because I get all these letters. Joe Bob, why'd you tell us what was going to happen? We don't like that. You told us the whole movie. I don't ever tell you what's going to happen. Do I do that? Do I tell what's going to happen? No, I give you the drive-in totals, a general idea, so you can decide whether to stay here with us or surf on over to the Food Network, you know?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
I don't want to say this movie is slow, but I've never heard so much techno-babble gobbledygook in my life. Are you following this? Here's what it is. Brad Johnson was a World War II soldier who was taking part in a radar experiment in 1943, and he got zapped forward to 1984, and all his friends got melted into the hull of a warship, and now he's lived for 9 years in the future where he doesn't belong, but the evil military guys are starting to mess with time again, playing around with his super stealth fighter thing, and it's scrambling Brad's DNA. Now, kind of hard to show the scrambling of DNA on the screen, you know, so he just falls down a lot. Is that about it?
Yeah, good.
And his kid plays Little League. All right, back to the movie. When it takes them 9 years to decide whether they want to make a sequel or not, that's when you know you got problems. Of course, in this case, since it's a time travel movie, a sequel would actually be a prequel. This should be called Philadelphia Experiment Zero. Are you following me?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
All right, well, as we leave David there in the Twilight Zone, running for his life, getting beaten up by jackbooted thugs, this might be the emotionally correct time for the feature we like to call Joe Bob's Jailbreak. And to help us out, we have the TNT mail girl, Reno, who was late to work tonight, but we're going to forgive that because she's got such a nice outfit.
Thank you.
Of course, you always have a nice outfit.
Thank you.
But it's not the outfit, really. It's you, Reno.
Okay, why are you being so nice to me?
It's inner beauty. It's your inner beauty that counts and comes out into the outer part.
Now I know I really don't believe you.
You don't believe you have inner beauty?
No, I don't believe that you care whether or not I have inner beauty or not.
Of course I do.
Oh, come on.
If you have inner beauty, you'll be much more likely to take pity on me and eventually have sex with me.
Exactly.
Why do you always make me tell you the truth?
Why do you always talk about sex, sex, sex?
Because I'm male.
I've noticed.
It's our job. If we didn't do it, civilization would die out.
Okay, I'm just going to do my job, okay? Here, why don't you read this letter? It's from Kellam Bay Corrections and Correction Center, so you have a jail mail. Jail mail.
Picture postcard.
The picture postcard.
A picture postcard of the prison. Look.
Oh.
Clallam Bay Correction Center in Clallam Bay, Washington. Cool. The wonderful confines of Clallam Bay. Plus, he has the letter is written on a menu, the prison menu. All right, anyway. Hey, Joe Bob, we love your show, especially your jail mail segment. But why a male girl? Why not a male boy?
Ooh.
And a female host?
Yeah, now that could work.
Maybe you could switch for a night. I've been talking to her about that. Sincerely, from all the career criminals and retired three-strikers like myself, three strikers at Clallam Bay Corruption Center. P.S., could you switch clothes also? So, I don't know, I think he's saying he'd like to see a little transvestite action on Monstervision. I'm appalled.
No, you're not.
Hell, I'll do it. And look at these fine Clallam Bay delicacies here. What's this one?
What do we have?
Well, we've got French dip sandwich, lemon meringue pie, rice pilaf, hashed brown potatoes.
Sure you
What's the one I saw? Applesauce cake. What is that? Cold cut and cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
Pickle chips.
Pickled chips?
Yeah, that goes with the macaroni salad. Well, aren't we lucky? Okay, Dean, 3 strikes and you're in. Sorry to hear that, but there's always a glimmer of hope, so free your mind and your butt will follow because we love a captive audience. Appreciate you watching the show. Clallam Bay is an interesting place. It's located at the extreme northwestern point of the lower 48 states in a town so small that a lot of maps don't even have it on there. There's 1,600 people in the town, and most of them have jobs keeping eyes on the 870 inmates who are considered real tough guys and escape risks. That's why they stuck them up there. The facility is 10 years old, and the most interesting thing they have there is you can study theology.
Theology?
It's the only prison in Washington State where you can study theology. Yeah. It ain't that popular. The best job is working in the upholstery shop where they make chairs for state agencies. And they have all the usual sports, weightlifting, basketball, baseball, flag football.
Flag football.
Yeah. For minimum security only. If you're in max, you can't play. And the sunsets are great. And that's about it.
Where is this?
West of Seattle.
Oh, I love Seattle.
Well, all these guys would love Seattle, too, except the only time they're going to go there is to appear in court in an orange jumpsuit, so...
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, well, they don't call them bad guys for nothing, Reno. All right, let's get back to the Philadelphia Experiment 2.
Well, aren't you going to hit on me before I leave?
Oh, yeah, okay. Nice outfit.
You already said that one. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Nice shoes.
Lame. Lame.
I know, but...
Lame.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
That actor who plays the deranged military leader is Garrett Graham, who's been in a jillion low-budget movies, always does a great job. But what's funny about that scene where he's sitting there watching propaganda films and listening to classical music is that those old black and white films they're showing were actually made for the WPA in the 30s. They're not Nazi films, they're not Soviet films, they're good old American documentaries made to look sort of sinister. I can tell by the looks on you guys' faces it's probably kind of late at night to be passing along a cultural fact, isn't it? All right, let's get back to the picture, and I only have one question. What is this date thing? I still haven't figured it out. It's 1993, right? Started in 1993. He got zapped to another dimension, but in this other dimension, it's still 1993. They're going to explain that, right? I doubt it. All right, roll it. See, the WPA was this agency that was set up by President Roosevelt to give people jobs during the 30s. Are you listening? And if you were a writer or a filmmaker, they gave you a job writing and making movies. So we have all this crap that people wrote and produced in the 30s. Can you imagine if we had that today? You say, oh, you're a writer? Okay, here's $1,000. Go to Nebraska, describe the trees. Jesse Helms' worst nightmare, right? All right, I'm going to make a note. Do not discuss obscure federal agencies from the Depression while hosting Monstervision. I won't do that again. All right, fine.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
Man was not meant to play with time. Did he actually say that? So what we've got here apparently is two different 1993s operating at the same time, which actually makes sense because it solves the problem of all time travel movies, and that is that you can't go back in time without violating the first law of thermodynamics, okay? Now, I promised I would explain this again because some of you didn't get it the first time we showed this movie, all right? If Brad Johnson in this movie is signified as a collection of molecules, M, then he can be described at any time, if this is a timeline, he can be described at any time t by 6n variables. 6n. 3 variables describe the position of each molecule in his body, because there are 3 dimensions, and 3 variables describe the momentum of each molecule. Have you got that? Now, when Brad Johnson travels forward or backward in time, the 6n variables are duplicated at some time t minus a or t plus a. All right? Now, his molecules have disappeared at t, and they have reappeared at time t minus a, to use the example from this movie, in precisely the same relative configuration. The only problem is this violates the first law of thermodynamics, which states that the mass energy of the universe, UE, mass energy of the universe, is constant. Therefore, an observer at rest at time t minus a, relative to Brad Johnson, would observe an increase in UE of mc squared joules. Yeah? Where the M is Brad Johnson's rest mass in kilograms. And no observer can detect a violation of the first law. Therefore, the trip back through time would thus violate the first law of thermodynamics. Okay, back to the movie.
Oh, yeah.
What? What? Ask Stephen Hawking. Ask Stephen Hunt. We'll go into this much more detail next week on Joe Bob Summer School, but this is a preview, bonus round. Make a copy of this for the rest of the movie, and you'll see that I'm correct.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
All right, well, the studio is still abuzz with my demonstration of why the guy in this movie cannot go back to 1943. It's impossible. And you know these time travel movies always burn my bacon because it is impossible. You go back in time, let's say you shoot your grandfather. Therefore, you are never born, so you can't go back in time and shoot your grandfather, but then you are born, you do go back. It makes no sense. You try to figure out the Terminator movies, you can't figure them out. In fact, you know what? It not only violates the first law of thermodynamics, it violates the second law of thermodynamics. All right, fine. Fine. I won't explain it. You try to make the show just a little bit educational, maybe send the audience away learning something instead of just sitting on the couch drinking Old Milwaukee, eating Doritos, and who thanks me? All right, fine, fine. Back to the movie. I think I should explain it. The second law of thermodynamics says that the entropy of the universe is always increasing. It's going to hell. It's decaying. It's falling apart. You take Brad Johnson, you zap him back to 1943, you've reversed the entropy at that point in time. All right? That's all I'm going to say. All right, till next week. But guys at Caltech and MIT, write in. Say Joe Bob is correct, all right? Caltech and MIT are universities.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
I'm not even going to comment. I'm not even going to comment, no. I'm humiliated. I could have used this break to explain wormholes, where these guys at Caltech built a model showing how you could actually travel through time. But you guys don't deserve it. I'm through for the night. And now the conclusion of Philadelphia Experiment 2, which commits the paradox of causality, by the way. Not that anybody here would be interested.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
I gotta admit, that was a great ending. The part in Nazi Germany didn't make sense, but once he got there, who cares? The whole movie is just so they can do that scene where he kills Mahler's father, and so Mahler evaporates. Pretty cool effects. It's not a terrible movie. I'm just not a big fan of time travel flicks. They give me headaches. All right, enough of that. I want to remind you that next week we'll be back to time travel again as we start the 10-week course called Joe Bob's Summer School with the double feature of Back to the Future and Time After Time. But for tonight, you can stick a fork in me. I'm done. I'm Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that for every action, there is an equal and opposite government program. You know, I met this girl who was so blonde, she sent me a fax with a stamp on it. Yeah, she was so blonde, she thought a quarterback was a refund. She was so blonde, she tripped over a cordless phone. She was so blonde, she told somebody to meet her at the corner of Walk and Don't Walk. Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. Do you guys like blonde jokes? I like them. She was so blonde, she took a ruler to bed to see how long she slept. She was so blonde that at the bottom of the job application where it says sign here, she put Sagittarius. She was so blonde that when she heard 90% of all crimes occur near the home, she moved.